Guys, my name is Xuen, and today I'll be going over a guide on how to play Reaper. In this guide, we'll both be covering level 70 and 90 rotations, as well as some tips and tricks to help you play the job. However, let's first break down the job so you can better understand how to play it. Last thing to mention is that if you already mastered the basics and want to jump to a specific part in the video, you're more than welcome to do so by checking the timestamps in the description of the video. Let's first discuss the Reaper's utility, as it will play an important role in your rotation later on. Reapers have several utilities, but let's first talk about your damage buffs. First, you have your Shadow of Death for single target, and Whirl of Death for AoE, that will increase the damage you deal to the target by 10%. Also, if the target dies while under the effect of Whirl of Death or Shadow of Death, you will gain 10 soul gauge for your gauge. Next we have your Arcane Circle, which will increase the damage you and your allies deal by 3%. At level 88, you'll gain the Enhanced Arcane Circle trait, which will give you and your party members a buff that will last for 5 seconds, to where if you or your ally makes any damaging action within those 5 seconds, you will gain a stack of Immortal Sacrifice, which will be spent on the ability Plentiful Harvest, which will grant you 50 Shroud gauge. Let's next talk about your Arcane Crest, that when activated will shield you for 10% of your maximum health, and at level 84 will turn into Enhanced Arcane Crest, that when the shield is completely absorbed, will put a heal over time effect with a potency of 100 for 15 seconds to you and your party members. Lastly, we have your Gap Closer, which comes in 2 spells called Hell's Ingress, which will teleport you forward, and Hell's Egress, that will teleport you backwards. Once you use one of your Gap Closers, being it Hell's Ingress or Hell's Egress, your Harp will become instant cast, and at level 74, you'll gain the Hell's Gate trait, so whenever you use your Hell's Ingress or Hell's Egress, you will leave a Hell's Gate behind that you can teleport back to if you activate the alternate ability. Next thing to go over before we talk about the gauge is positionals, so let's discuss them. There are luckily only 2 positionals for Reaper to worry about that revolve around your Gibbet, which is performed at your target's side/flank, and Gallows, which is performed at your target's back/rear. Keep in mind when using your Gibbet or Gallows, you will gain a buff that will enhance the next use of the opposite one that you did not cast previously. It does not matter which one you start with first in a rotation, as long as you're constantly swapping between the two. So, for example, if I were to use Gibbet first, I would want to use Gallows next, and vice versa. If you're constantly rotating these properly, you will also get a potency damage bonus to your single target avatar attacks, as it will change your bloodstalk to Unveiled Gibbet and Unveiled Gallows, which has a higher potency. Let's next discuss the gauge for Reaper, what it is, and go over how to generate resources for it. Reaper has 3 gauges that you'll be managing as you go about a rotation, but let's first talk about your soul gauge as it's unlocked first. A Reaper soul gauge, the red one, is unlocked at level 50 and is used for your off GCD abilities with the use of your avatar. You can generate resources for your soul gauge through different ways. One is to use your basic 1-2-3 combo of Slice, Waxing Slice, into Infernal Slice, as well as Soul Slice or Soul Scythe. Once you gain 50 soul gauge, you're able to use your off GCD avatar abilities, which are Bloodstalk for single target and Grim Swath for AoE. You also have an ability called Gluttony that is unlocked at level 76, which is a harder hitting avatar ability but on a minute cooldown. Once you use one of your avatar abilities, you'll be granted a Soul Reaver stack, which will allow you to use your Gibbet or Gallows for single target, and Guillotine for AoE. And if you use Gluttony, you'll be granted 2 stacks of Soul Reaver. After you perform a Gibbet Gallows attack, or Guillotine, at level 80, you will gain 10 Shroud gauge, which is the blue bar on your gauge. Finally, once you have 50 Shroud gauge, you may use the ability Enshroud to gain access to your last and final gauge, which is your death gauge. last thing to talk about before we dive into the rotation is your Soulsow, which is a 2-part spell, which will turn into Harvest Moon once activated. Keep in mind that if you're in combat, this ability will have a 5-second cast time, so it's best to use right before every pull, or during boss downtime when the boss is doing an animation where you're not able to attack the boss. Now that we've discussed the gauge, positionals, and utility, let's dive into the level 70 rotation if you're just picking up the job. We'll first be talking about single target rotation, then later on going into the AoE rotation. You first will be starting out the pull by applying 2 Shadow of Death casts on your target. Once that is done, we're going to cast Soul Slice into Bloodstalk, into a Gibbet or Gallows, then go about your 1-2-3 rotation of Slice, Waxing Slice, into Infernal Slice, until you have 50 soul gauge to spend on another Bloodstock and Gibbet and Gallows combo. Next is the level 70 AoE rotation. First, you'll be using your Whirl of Death twice, then casting Soul Scythe into Grim Swath, into Guillotine, then going into your 1-2 combo of Spinning Scythe into Nightmare Scythe, until you have 50 soul gauge to spend on another Grim Swath Guillotine combo. Let's next talk about the level 90 rotation for Reaper by first going over the single target rotation outside of Enshroud, and then we'll be discussing the Enshrouded rotation after. We first will be popping our Soulsow right before the pull. Once we get to our target, we'll be opening with 2 Shadow of Deaths into a Soul Slice, Gluttony, Gallows, Gibbet, Soul Slice, Unveiled Gallows, Gallows again, Harvest Moon, then going into your 1-2-3 combo of Slice, Waxing Slice, into Infernal Slice, until you have 50 soul gauge to spend. Once enshrouded, the single target rotation will go as followed. First, you will cast Arcane Circle, then cast Cross Reaping, Void Reaping, Lemire Slice, Cross Reaping, Void Reaping, Lemire Slice again, and then finish off with a Communio. First, we'll be taking a look at our non-enshroud AoE rotation. First, you'll pop your Soulsow right before the pull, then go into 2 Whirl of Deaths, into a Soul Scythe, Gluttony, Guillotine, Guillotine again, Soul Scythe, Grim Swath, Guillotine, Harvest Moon, then go into your 1-2 rotation of Spinning Scythe into Nightmare Scythe until you have 50 soul gauge to spend. Lastly, we'll be talking about an enshrouded AoE rotation. First, you'll be going into Grim Reaping twice, into Lemire Scythe, into another 2 Grim Reapings, into a Lemire Scythe again, and then finishing off with a Communio. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and by the time this guide goes live, I'll be streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/Xuen, so I hope to see you there. This guide took an immense amount of work and effort to put together, so if you don't mind helping it spread on the YouTube algorithm by hitting the like button and commenting on the video letting me know what you thought of it, that would be extremely appreciated. And also, if you guys want to see a guide on another class, comment down below and let me know what you want to see next. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys on Twitch. Again, I stream every single day. And if you don't decide to tune in, I hope to see you guys in the next video. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and take care.